the name of the values that keep you alive, do not let your vision of man be distorted by the ugly, the cowardly, the mindless, and those who have never achieved his title. Do not lose your knowledge that man's proper estate is an upright posture, an intransigent mind, and a step that travels on limited roads. Do not let your fire go out. Spark might replace the spark, and the hopeless swamps of the approximate, the not quite, the not yet, the not at all. The world you desired can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It's yours.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here with Pablo Arias. He is our CMO. He does all of our marketing, social media, bunch of fun stuff.
Hey guys.
So thanks for being here, Pablo. Yeah.
Pleasure to be on.
Yeah. And so we've talked about you a little bit, but this is the first time you're actually on, so it'll be good for people to get a little acquainted to you, see what you do. And I think we'll just sort of go from there. First, I want to start with a little bit of housekeeping stuff. I know some people have complained we've had a few mic issues. When we did the interview with John, his computer actually died about halfway through, so we lost half the audio, and we kind of had to make do. And he was a super busy guy, so I know that one wasn't great, and we're probably going to redo that or do one with a little more focus on some of the other things he's got more expertise in. Super knowledgeable guy, so I think it'll be good to get him back on. We had a couple people fact check a couple of things, so I do want to say when I talked about Google and their censorship of China, someone mentioned they had dropped that about a month ago, so I do want to give credit where credit is due. We're busy guys, we're trying to do a lot of stuff, so if you catch any of us saying something that you know might not be true, please call us out on it, because we want to have as much factual information as possible, and it's probably just because we haven't had time to read up on everything in every industry. Pretty busy. And other than that, if there's any other reason you feel like reaching out, Twitter's a great way to do it. It's at cryptoeconomy_me, and me and Pablo are running that account, so one of us will get the message and we'll get back to you. We've had a few people ask us about coming on the podcast, and if you or someone interesting is interested, feel free to reach out. We're going to be having our new website for Atlas up hopefully sometime in the next week. I know we've been kind of behind on some of the stuff we've been saying we're going to get out. It's kind of part and parcel of working in tech, but we've been traveling a lot, so I've been in between New York, LA, and Austin, so it's been pretty hectic, but we're going to be getting some stuff done. Will is going to be meeting me in New York, so with Will and I here, we're going to be able to get a bunch done in the next couple weeks, and then over the summer, we're going to be a lot more free, I think, to make some good headway, so it's coming, I promise. And we have a new article on the cryptoeconomy.news site. So if you want to take a look at the weekly digest, what we're doing with that is just taking stories that we find interesting or stuff I find interesting. I'm writing it right now and summarizing it for you in a couple pages, just a little blurb about each thing, why it's important, what's interesting about it, things you should know. So that story is up on the .news website, and you can find it on our LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So with that, we'll get started. Pablo, thanks for sitting through that one.
Sure thing.
All right, so I guess getting into your background, how did you start entrepreneurship? I know you started, selling essentially satellite TV in high school, right?
Yeah, that word selling is a flagship trait that I've always had. I come from a very merchant type family, so being an entrepreneur was very natural. It's literally because I knew nothing else. Like I had no option. I would be the odd one out in my family if I wasn't an entrepreneur, because every single person in my family is in one way, shape, or form. So that was all supernatural. Luckily, I had role models to look after. My older brother and my mother, who I watched them just day in and day out grind, practice on their craft, and it just motivated me to do something similar. And uh, so when to answer your question in one long-winded answer, like it was simply like, an alternative wasn't even like, I never even considered an alternative. I was the kid that when we went out to like music concerts and stuff, I would have my mom take me to Costco before. I would get packs of gums at wholesale price, and I would walk around and sell them piece by piece. So,
Yeah, I remember there was an economy back in elementary school of just what every snack was
exactly,
worth. There's an exchange rate. One bag of
exactly.
hot Cheetos was two sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean, I knew in elementary school I was an entrepreneur when we would get these. Uh, they were called like these tokens in class of that were given to you if you behaved well, or you got a star next to your name for that day because you didn't disturb class or anything like that. So we were incentivized to be good kids in school,
Yeah.
and they would give us these little tokens and stuff that every Friday we would get to count up all of our tokens and buy stuff from the quote unquote treasure chest
Yeah.
that our teacher gave us. And so I was like, shit, I was running a little treasure chest franchise in elementary school, just like, A, being on my best behavior, and, B, when I wasn't on my best behavior, which was about 50-50 at the time, I would figure out a way to barter, trade, do whatever I could to still get my tokens. I would trade kids, hey, give me, two tokens and I'll give you my lunch today.
Yeah.
You
Gotta get
know,
those tokens.
yeah. So
Same in 2018, just a little different.
exactly. So that was all like, I knew very young. I was always selling shit, trading shit, and it was fun to me, and it felt supernatural. It was just the way I was wired, and so coming into entrepreneurship was just a really like it was just like a pre-written, destined plan for me.
Yeah. So how did you get started, selling TV, for example, or, how did you first get into some of your first
Okay,
projects, and what do you think you learned?
my very, very first, my first venture was a network marketing company, which all of us, I feel, have heard about one or been a part of one, where, you sell shit to other people and you get
Kind of
rewarded from it.
affiliate marketing, is that
Exactly.
okay?
Yes. Exactly. So that was my very first venture, and it was selling these energy drinks. Company called Vima ended up, going under, FTC, whatever.
Selling poison.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't because of that. It's
Wasn't
because
even
MLM
FDA.
MLM companies. Everybody says they're pyramid scheme and all that. And so it was like one of those like
Oh,
you
I see.
know iffy type of things.
Well, you still see those Herbalife trucks
Right.
rolling around,
Right.
It's like, where do you draw the line exactly?
Exactly. They're still, I mean, they're still under a lot of scrutiny on a daily basis. Every single MLM company is, because it's just, like you said, it's a fishy line.
Yeah.
Whenever you're recruiting people into a business for the sake of making money off them. But
I mean,
like,
he unfortunately his karma came back to him. I think he had a heart attack the minute his company got successful.
oh shit. Well, R.I.P. if he's still alive, or I don't know
Yeah.
what the situation is. But nevertheless, I started there. I don't regret it at all. I regret like the way I went about it, in terms of like, I didn't want to. I took it too serious.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was just the way I did anything. Like, I can't half-ass anything. If I'm gonna do
Oh, of
it, I might
course.
as well do it. At the best. At my maximal, my maximum
Capacity.
potential. Yeah. And so I started there. It got me comfortable talking to people, and just what the best thing it did for me was it put me onto a path of self development. Like, that was the most important thing, was that like it forced me to be around people that were all like very ambitious and really gave a shit about their future. And so like we would talk about, like, we would read books and
Yeah.
have like book reviews with one another on, like, hey, this is what we learned. So overall, it was just like growing as people, which was great.
So it
That was
seems
like
like
my
that's the whole reason those companies are successful is they have this ability to somehow attract all these incredibly motivated people, but then get them to sell garbage.
yeah, it literally, why those companies thrive is because of the communities. It's like building a culture of excellence, of just people committing to being the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And so that was what was really attractive to me. That was actually the main reason I wanted to join. I didn't give a shit about the products. While they were really healthy, they had mangosteen, these superfoods and all that.
Uh-huh.
Like, I mostly cared about, wait, like, there's other people out in the world that I was meeting on the internet, like, and talking to on Skype, that were just as ambitious as I was. And like, they, at my age, when I started, I was 15 years old. Like, all my friends, they cared about just, girls and parties on the weekends.
Yeah.
And so it was a nice change to like talk about people, like, staying in on a Friday night and doing like book reviews with one another. That was the main reason why I just joined the company. It was like, I love that idea of just talking to people on a daily basis that have similar goals that I had.
Yeah,
And
it's that sort of shift from talking about people and things to talking about ideas, and
right,
that has to happen
exactly.
at some point.
Yep. And so then from there, I got to meet a lot of cool people, and then as a result of that, a cool group of dudes I met decided that we should start selling. We should start working for a solar company. It was that was my first like official job, even though it wasn't a paid job. It was all performance based. Like, it was, I guess, like an official like little, like, I had my first official little work polo and binder, pretty much.
There you go.
And so we started working for a company. My first thing outside of the network marketing stuff was the door-to-door lead generation company, where we would knock on doors and set up solar appointments for solar representatives to come to someone's house and pitch them on setting up a solar system on their home.
So you're just kind of figuring out if people are interested, essentially.
Exactly, that was it. Like, I wasn't the one selling the actual solar system. I was just setting up the meeting, and we would get paid based on like how many meetings we set up.
Yep.
So that was like my first introduction to direct sales, and from there I transitioned to a solar company in which I was actually now knocking on the door and selling them the system, called Suncrest. And that was pretty much the same thing. Instead of just setting up the appointment, I would actually set up the appointment for myself to come back and walk them through all the solar, analyze their savings, how much they'd be saving annually, and try and hook up a solar system to their house. And then from there, that's when we decided to move on over to DirecTV. My manager at the time had started with DirecTV, said DirecTV was a lot easier to sell because we're selling 24-month contracts instead of 25-year contracts.
Yeah, a little less commitment.
Yeah, and so started doing that, and that was a lot of fun because it was super easy to talk to people about TV. Everybody, loves watching TV or whatever.
Yep.
But then also it got to a point where I started feeling guilty, like, I'm buying or I'm selling people something that I wouldn't buy myself. And, like, I don't even really believe in TV. I don't watch TV myself.
Yeah.
And so I felt guilty.
Probably some hefty termination fees built into.
So I was over that. I decided, I've done enough door-to-door sales. Like, I've learned everything I needed to. The main thing why I decided to get involved in door-to-door was for the learning and experience that I was going to go through. It taught me how to deal with rejection, never take rejection personally, and how to always focus on what was in my control, and that was my input. So I actually did this thing where I analyzed how many doors it would take. I would analyze how many doors I knocked and how many deals I got out of that amount, and then I started focusing not on how many deals I can get today, but on how many doors I can knock that day. And so I got to a point where I knew that if I would knock on 100 houses, I would get 7 deals. And so it just started. I started focusing on just knocking 100 houses a day. Like I wasn't focused on deals. I was just focused on my input, on how many doors I was knocking on, and that completely changed everything. And it was just a great life lesson on, you can't always control the outcome, but you can control what
How much
you are,
effort you
yeah,
put
how
in?
much you're
Yeah.
putting in. And so I was super stoked on that. My when I first started that solar gig, like I was making six figures a year in high school. Literally,
Wow.
like just right after school, I would come home, toss on my polo, and just go out and knock doors. And so like it made me super comfortable with myself and like everything I wanted to pursue, because like at that point I didn't give a shit about money anymore. I realized that, like, I now know how to sell, and if I ever hit rock bottom, I can just put on a polo and go knock doors again and keep myself
Yeah.
afloat.
It's
And
nice to know
so
you know where your rock bottom is.
exactly, yeah. So like it allowed me to start chasing things I was actually passionate about, and I was passionate about gaming at the time. I've always been like a little gamer. In middle school, all I did was play Call of Duty. Like literally, like I went to football practice and then played Call of Duty. Like that
Oh,
was like
those
my
were the
only.
days.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was literally everything I would do. Um, and since all of that, like I knew that I was comfortable communicating with people, and I wanted to build a gaming company, in which I drafted up a solid team. We started working on mobile games. Long story short, with that, we and I know you have experience with this, Mark.
Yeah.
We took venture capital funding from the wrong people, and that like completely tore the passion that I had for the venture. Like it wasn't even fun anymore. It didn't feel like I was building the company for myself. Like we
Yeah.
we had too many chefs in the kitchen, and it really just messed up like just the chemistry of the team and the venture and everything. And
Yeah.
so
It's
since that
important to
gaming,
keep things fun and cordial, and you got to offset the stress with something.
yeah. So then from there, I decided, I don't want to have to deal with investors. I want to do something where like I can do something new every single day, where I can create. Overall, like I just love creating stuff, and I wanted to be in a position where I can create all day, and that's what led me to social media. And so about 3 years ago, I talked to a buddy of mine who was doing this thing called like meme pages or passion pages, theme pages, whatever you want to call them, where he would post native content relevant to a certain niche on Instagram, and brands would pay for features on his page. And he would just be like chilling on his couch all day, like on his phone, just posting memes and making money. And that was like super intriguing to me. And so I decided to look into it more. Luckily, at the time, I had saved up some money from my door to door days. And so I literally emptied out my bank account from everything I had made in door to door, invested it into shout outs and buying accounts and growing pages on Instagram. And then that allowed me to start building a distributional network for myself. And for the past 2.5 years, that's been my bread and butter, is selling shout outs, we call them, on social media, and running campaigns for both consumer facing brands and personalities, and just growing their Instagram brands. Um,
So, how
and
did you get some of your first clients? How do you even get started with that? Did you have to build your own brand first, or?
right, I took the reverse approach that most people take. I wanted the clients to come to me. And so luckily, like most of and even till this day, actually, most of my clients are inbound, meaning that they reach out to me via DM, via Kick, or via email, from discovering one of my channels online. And so I just decided, well, let me just have the leverage first. Let me build a community. And then once I have that community, I can then monetize it. And so that was how I went about it. It was I just built the community first, and then once I already had the community, offers started coming in
So,
for exposure.
So when you were building the community, what was sort of the guiding philosophy behind it? What were you trying
It
to
was
use as the uniting factor, I guess?
it was to give more than I took. I always put the community first, consumers first, so I would provide them with more value that they were providing me. And so they won't be as pissed off when I run an ad on them.
Yeah.
Like, that was the main thing, was I wanted to just build a loyal fan base of people that I was actually delivering value to them in whatever manner, depending on the page, would look like for that person. And so then I was operating out of the law wrestling so much that they just felt indebted to me, and wouldn't care if I ran an ad or if I wanted to sell some products.
So when you were looking at a lot of these ads and sponsors and with your clients as well, do you think they take a good hard look at the products and make sure that, they're legitimate? Or, I mean, clearly Facebook doesn't at all, but do you think they've done a good job at that?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So when you're looking at companies
Uh
approaching
huh.
you or your clients for shout outs, are your clients typically thinking about if the product is good? Do they get a sample first? How much time is being put into making sure it's something worth putting out to this base that they've spent so much time building?
Oh, okay. On my end, I always vet the type of clients I take on. I don't post anything that's gonna be harmful to my community or lead them astray, meaning like lead them to some sort of scam shit or something. Because I get
Yeah,
like
yeah,
tons of offers, like dudes will literally hit me up saying, "Hey, want to scam people together?" And I'm just like, "Fuck off, you dick! Like, you do not like. I
yeah,
can't believe you don't believe in karma." Um, like,
yeah. I'm sure the money's better.
yeah. So like, I um I always vet the clients that I do promos for. I check their website. I ask them to send me proof that they're actually fulfilling orders. And and then I also just recommend them like quality products that I think will do well. Like if a product is just like too weird or like too just off brand for me, then I won't post it. I always like to give the audience something that they would actually consume. Like not run.
Yeah.
It's all about product market fit too, and it's also to protect the client as well. Like I don't want to have a client be pissed off at me when they run ads with me on on demographics that simply like would have never bought their products anyways.
Yeah.
So I've been moving more into the cannabis sector as well, like working with cannabis brands, and I'm still I'm
Yeah.
still denying promos on certain pages because I just know that the demographic doesn't add up, and like my audience would be pissed off on certain pages if I ran to them a
Yeah.
cannabis ad. They would just unfollow me or something.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah,
I mean, it's a good way to keep people honest.
exactly. So yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I just vet everybody that approaches me, and I give them any and all helpful advice on where they should be placing their ads. And I don't take on clients unless I can genuinely help them, because I think my personal brand is just too valuable to have someone be talking bad about me about oh, I hired this guy for marketing services and he didn't deliver type stuff. So I'm always being super careful about who I take on, and that's actually what I started doing. Was I started also sorry, my alarm's going on actually as we speak.
One of your
I'm gonna be posting an
one of
ad.
your posts is scheduled.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
for 3 p.m. and I always post I do it 1 minute before 2:59 p.m. so I post it timely. Um,
There you go.
um, so yeah, to answer your question, I just vet them and I don't take on everyone. And I also I started doing minimums. So I don't take on clients unless they're budget. Spend
Uh
I
huh.
get clients that want to spend the very very minimal amount, and it's just simply not enough to move the needle and doesn't give us enough wiggle room to do A/B testing, trial and error. And so that's also one thing that really helped my agency was instead of trying to get all the clients in the world, it was just to focus on a few premium clients that I was actually delivering results for.
So when you talk about a budget, I mean, even I have no idea what a shout out costs. Is it based on number of followers, the demographics, and if it is demographics, how do you even figure that out without, detailed analytics? I don't know if Instagram gives you much in that. Maybe they've
So what
updated it
Instagram,
since, but
yeah,
if you could talk a
the
little bit
thing
about
is,
that.
it all depends on the niche, right? Some audiences are simply worth more than others, and I'll give you an example. Um, I run a page on Instagram called @luxuryism. That pound for pound, that page is a lot more valuable than any other page that size, simply because of the types of clients that we service. It's a page that posts luxury
Yeah.
homes. And so what's the ROI to a real estate agent that wants to sell a $5 million house and they want to use us as a media channel? Because it's like it has a very
Yeah.
elite audience. Celebrities follow that page. And so it's just a different demographic that you can sell a lot like of high ticket items to. And so pound for pound, that page, the shout outs, would be 10 times what you would charge on, a regular meme page of that same size. Um, so
Wow.
it's all about the audience. How valuable is the audience? And um, B, like, I just put a minimum for my personal agency where now I'm doing campaigns at a minimum of 7,000 a month, which gives me enough wiggle room to test a lot of different things, and most importantly is create original content. The main thing that's fucking up a lot of
Yeah.
people right now on social media and how they're spending their ad budgets is they're overspending on distribution and they're underspending on content creation. Instead of spending so much freaking money on getting all of these shout outs and all these people to post your shitty ad, you can just you can spend that same money on creating elite superior content, and that actually can be your whole marketing strategy. How Dollar Shave Club did it was they created
Yeah.
awesome ads,
Yeah.
and those
Viral
ads just
videos.
went viral, so they didn't have to pay for distribution. And so that's what I'm currently pushing a lot of my clients to do, is to focus more on the creative and digital assets that they have.
So, as far as your clients, who are some of the people you've maybe worked with, if you want to talk about that, and maybe some of the
Sure.
stuff you've done with them? Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
My top clients, to name three, would be Fashion Nova, which is a fashion brand, which we've all probably heard of, which I simply distribute their ads across my network of media channels. So that's the shout out stuff I'm
Mhm.
talking about, getting them featured on certain media channels on Instagram. Same thing with
Mhm.
another personality, Diddy. Some people call him Puff Daddy. Uh,
She's gone through an
yeah,
evolution of
the
naming.
music artist and mogul. I've done distribution for his personal brand, and as well as was when his Can't Stop Won't Stop film was released last year, I helped him push that. Um, uh, as well as Ty Lopez. To the third one would be, yeah, he sells info products online, as we all know. We've seen his ads, and
Yes.
so I've taught for those info products, and I also help grow his media channels, and I also help manage some passion pages that he owns on a daily basis. And so, yeah, I work with him on a daily basis, just distribution and content creation.
And so, yeah, I guess for people who don't know, you explain passion pages to me, just the Instagram accounts that are typically geared towards certain interests or lifestyles. I
Yeah,
guess is that how you describe
exactly.
it?
Like that. That's the best way to sell anything, is to first build a community around it. And what I mean by that is like if you're selling makeup products, then you should really consider starting a makeup channel in which all you post is makeup tutorials, because the same girls that you're trying to sell your makeup products to like to follow and engage with those types of pages.
Like to
Yeah,
put it on.
exactly. So like if you can provide them a ton of value by showing them tons of makeup tutorials, then they're going to be a lot more comfortable buying your products because you've already taught them how to do their mascara or whatever. So that's what I
Yeah.
mean by passion pages is just relevant content that's either entertaining, enlightening, or educational towards a certain market sector.
That makes sense. And so, do you think the focus has really been on Instagram, or do you think it's moving elsewhere? I mean, obviously, YouTube is huge. It seems like people are moving away from Facebook. Where do you see a lot of your clients wanting distribution? Where do you think is the best bang for their buck,
I think
etc.?
Instagram. That's why I've quadrupled my efforts down on Instagram. And this is actually verbatim quoting Gary Vaynerchuk in his recent book release that came out January 30th, 2018 this year, where he said Instagram is the hottest network in terms of scale and impact. So aside from YouTube, Instagram has created the most famous people ever. And like there's legit
Yeah.
college kids right now that are taking gap years from school to see if they can get big on Instagram. uh, so
Yeah.
I believe in Instagram. Obviously, it's following its parent company, Facebook's footsteps. Zuckerberg is a freak when it comes to attention. Um, and I I like the fact how it's so user friendly, and the main reason why I like it is because I'm betting on the mobile device. And so I think that the mobile device is going to continue to raise in popularity. It's been becoming more accessible. More people are getting it. And 99% of people that use Instagram use it on their mobile device. And so it is the platform for the mobile device. It's a very intimate platform, meaning you can scroll your Instagram feed while you're on the shitter, while you're in bed, while you're on the bus, while you're waiting in the doctor's office. It's very immediate. Um, and not to mention, it's growing at a ridiculous rate of 500,000 new users every day. They're about to crack 900 million monthly active users. And also, you asked most bang for your buck, if you're an advertiser and thinking where you should spend your money, you should really consider Instagram, because in a recent survey done by Statista, they said that when they interviewed influencers, 78% of influencers prefer Instagram for brand collaborations, while the next closest platform was YouTube at 4%. And so influencers like collaborating with brands on Instagram.
There go
Yep.
those alarms.
Another ad real fast.
Hey, no worries. You
Yeah.
got to keep working. It's a 24-hour day job. That's the one downside of entrepreneurship. It's never
It's
you
literally
never
from
clock
when you
out.
fucking when you wake up to when you close your eyes at night.
Yeah, that's why when it stops being fun, it gets
Uh
real
huh.
hard to do because it's your
Yep.
whole life.
Pretty much, man.
Well, so as far as internationally, do you think some of that growth might just be more international than pushing into international markets, but not growing so much here? Because I feel like everyone here, at least in definitely our generation, who was going to get an Instagram probably has gotten one, and I feel like probably more people might be leaving at this point than staying or than joining. At least where we are, especially a place like LA. Um, do you think that might be indicative of people sort of starting to move elsewhere, or do you think it's just going to keep going until it takes over the globe and people are going to stay just because of the network effects?
Yeah. Luckily, there's this thing called FOMO that exists, fear of
Yeah.
missing out, and that's why these platforms are so hot, because people are sharing and documenting their life, their experiences on these platforms, and in like social discussions, everybody just likes to talk about other people and what other people are up to. So we live in a very gossipy world where there's a
Yeah.
lot of chatter. And
Yeah.
so I see every single social media platform, and I focus on Instagram because I think it's the most underpriced and it has the most potential. Um, but really, any sort of social platform where there's attention is valuable. You know, people want to communicate online.
Yeah.
They want to share what they got going on. And as far as internationally, I think people in other countries outside of the U.S. are more fortunate when it comes to how they spend their advertising budget, simply because
Yeah. They're
yeah, U.S.
overloaded.
is now becoming very saturated, and in other countries it hasn't hit that point of saturation. So it's a lot cheaper in other countries to run ads where you're getting the same results, but you're paying a lot less.
Have you had any international brands or influencers to like reach out to you to do domestic ads? So that's, I guess, as it grows internationally, do you think more companies abroad will go, more towards your market to get out into
Yeah,
the US market?
yeah. I've had brands from Australia, Europe, all over, trying to tap into the U.S. market. And that's the beautiful thing about the internet is like if you have an online shop, it doesn't matter where your customers are from, as long as you offer, international shipping. Like you can service anybody, and so the reach of the internet is unlimited and global. And so I'm definitely starting to see a lot more uh, global brands start to move their advertising dollars into social media. And right now, I'm just trying to squeeze out all the juice it's got left, because the moment that Fortune 500 brands catch on and start moving their
Yeah.
millions of dollars into social media, it's going to be a lot more expensive. And so, um, yeah,
Yeah.
we're in a phase right now where you can get yours cheap.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So I guess, one of the cool things I know you do, you go to a ton of conferences, you see a ton of events. And I know since you work, closely with Ty, he's moving more into the crypto space. So have there been any things that you've sort of noticed that you have piqued your interest within this industry? It doesn't even have to be crypto, things you've seen at conventions and experiences you've had. Anything you'd like to
Yeah,
highlight?
I think that cause backed cryptocurrencies are going to be extremely valuable.
So like instead of a
So I'll
charity
give you an
almost?
example. One thing that came into my ecosystem um, January of this year was this app called Sweatcoin. Have you heard of it?
Oh
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that is like a perfect example of like it's a cryptocurrency that has like it has a very clear purpose on why it even exists. It's
yeah,
encouraging people to get up off their ass and move around and walk around, and they're incentivizing people to do that by giving them cryptocurrencies, or well, not giving them, making them earn cryptocurrencies. um, and
yeah,
so I think that is a very interesting example of like how social media fits really well with the cryptocurrency market, because it's something that's like a social cause. Diabetes, overweight, all that is people being overweight is a huge problem globally, especially in the US. And seeing companies like that are really like I like seeing them because they actually have a cause behind them and a purpose for existing, and so people can get behind them and support them.
yeah. Something similar. I know Science Blockchain out of Santa Monica. They're pushing for essentially investing in science. It can be as simple as that. They raise tons of money just to invest in companies that they thought were doing good for society through
Right.
science. And they can probably use that money far more effectively than a lot of charities when it comes to things that are a little more about needing incubation and research, whereas charities are probably better more at distributing or redistributing the money that comes
Yeah,
in. Um, you know, so I think it's an interesting take
that's what's
on that
separating the
model.
winners and the losers in the age of social media. Is there's so much saturation with new brands being formed. You need to have that X factor, that story to your brand that makes people want to support it and get behind it. Not just like, oh, we sell T-shirts. Well, shit, everybody sells T-shirts nowadays. You know, like what's special about your
Yeah,
T-shirts? Where are the profits going? And so we're starting to see a lot more charitable causes. Ivory Ella is a perfect example of that. They're donating 10% of uh, all their proceeds to save the elephants, like an elephant saving organization, and that's their whole brand.
yeah,
Is their logo is an elephant. There's this brand I'm working with right now called Change, without the A, just CHNGE. They're donating 50% of the profits towards clean water, education, and environmental causes. And so like these are like the things that like everybody needs brand ambassadors nowadays and people to represent their brand, and that's the differentiating factor of like why people would actually want to represent that brand, is because they have that story behind them, so they know that they're supporting like a cause they
yeah.
believe in, not just like, oh, you just got a cool style but that's it.
Yeah, I think they bridge the gap between those commercials that tell you they'll send you a T-shirt if you donate, and charity work, because people want to donate. They want to support companies with causes they believe in, but they do also want to get something back, because if you do want to donate to everything you want to, you'll never have any money. So you want to get something back that you
Mm-hmm.
need anyway, or that you want, and it makes the purchase a lot easier. But it also makes it makes you feel a lot better about the purchase generally if it's supporting something you care about. So I guess it's about, I mean, in the case of, Tom's shoes, I think they're a pretty good example of finding a way to create something that people want, to create sort of a movement around the brand, and do it well enough that you can, charge enough of a margin so that you can donate, essentially half of what your
Right.
revenues would be. So it almost takes more work in a lot of cases, but I have a lot of respect for the companies that do manage to do that, because it's not easy. They're fighting an
Yeah.
uphill battle already on the
Well,
business model side.
on that note, some companies end up it ends up actually working out in their favor, donating to charity for tax reasons. So
Oh yeah,
depending how they structure it,
that's
some
true.
companies it's better for them to donate to charities than to donate to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I don't know who spends the money better, honestly, but you know, I remember, I forget which. Well, I don't know the numbers, so I'm not going to get into it specifically. But there was a charity in high school who a lot of people were trying to shill, essentially, and everyone was all about it. It was the what was it, the Comey
I'm
2012.
not sure.
It was the he was a warlord in Africa that they were
Mm,
trying to apprehend, and people donated. One girl alone raised something like $10,000. So kids from all these high schools were donating, and then they looked into the financials of the company and realized, literally, I think 3 cents of every dollar was going abroad, and a lot of that money was actually ending up in his
wow.
hands. So it was, you got to be really
Yeah.
careful with this stuff, and I think people need to look into, because I don't know if the problem necessarily is not enough people giving to charity. There's a lot of charity money out there. It's the fact that the people, a lot of times, who are expected to be spending it well, really aren't. Because when you run a charity, it's non-profit, but it's not non-profit for the person uh, working in the charity. So you can pay yourself an unlimited salary if you work at your own charity, and you can pay all your friends who end up working there whatever you want. So there can be a lot of waste, which I
Oh
think
yeah,
is
no, that's fucked
unfortunate.
up. Like
But
you know, some of these charity organizations seriously like
And that's so much worse than just not doing anything because they're
Hmm.
also, acting, walking around acting like they're
Yeah.
helping people when, it's exactly the opposite. Um, and I know, yeah, there were every day outside college, one thing you got to skip out on was, you have the SPLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, or SPLC, I guess, guys out there every day, and they're signing kids up and taking tons of money, and you should see their office. It's like a $50 million office. It's beautiful. So you see what they're
Yeah.
actually
Gotta be
spending their
careful
money
with
on.
those.
Um, yeah, exactly. But I guess back to crypto. So I know a lot of influencers have flipped over to crypto, um, and I guess I think in a lot of cases it's good because we need people to push crypto, especially good crypto brands, out to people because it's getting really hard without being able to explicitly market it via social
Hmm.
media ads. Um, but a lot of these guys are, I think, from what I've seen, mostly focusing on the trading and the investing side, which is where people are losing the most money. And it's also the hardest to get it right, the hardest to have good information. A lot of people are just kind of regurgitating things they've heard from some guy that everyone thinks knows.
Hmm.
Uh, Everyone thinks he knows what's going on. So, what have you noticed, within your community? The way you got started, I think, was, we started talking about it a couple summers ago and getting into the
Yeah.
mining, and I was trying to walk you through
Right.
Poloniex and stuff like that. But I guess since then, since it's really heated up, what have you noticed with people within your network and with on your radar?
I think that the more people get educated on the matter, the more excited they get about it. So, like this, the war that's being fought right now with cryptocurrencies and blockchain is that of information. I think that the how blockchain and cryptocurrencies will thrive is by educating, by voices like you, myself, and other supporters of this industry, educating people about cryptocurrencies. And you and I both know it's not about cryptocurrencies, it's about blockchain. Blockchain solves
Yeah,
the one of the most largest issues in business, and that is the one of uncertainty, of not being able to trust another party that you're doing a
yeah.
business dealing with,
Trust is
right?
everything.
So that's what the
Yeah.
blockchain solves, and it
Yeah, because if you think about, Uber and all of these companies that have created these P2P services, what they've created is an economy that relies on trust to work by giving people the tools and the network to operate amongst themselves, but it doesn't give them the tool to, ensure that there is trust there and that, you're getting what you hope to receive
right,
on
like
both ends, I
Uber,
think.
like the
And so
you
that
know
seems like the
they're the
logical
drivers are
evolution.
held accountable. The people ordering the drivers are held accountable. That's what it comes down to, is accountability. That's what blockchain does really well, and that's why Uber's been so successful, is because all these drivers want to be on their best behavior, because a 1-star review could really harm their their business.
Yeah.
So that's the
Even
sure,
well, I was
sure.
just gonna sort of tack on, you know, the the fee they charge to precipitate the transaction. Whatever margin they have is actually sort of an unnecessary fee for most of the people using the network once you enact blockchain. So companies like Arcade City in Austin, I think we're gonna have their COO on soon. Um, they are trying to solve that problem by taking that intermediary out completely, which I think will probably be the next round of evolution in this space, is where you don't need, all these companies are trying to give people the tools to
Yep.
decentralize essentially. So instead of going to the taxi service, you're just going to a person. Well, you can decentralize it completely by taking the company that's the intermediary
Yeah.
out of the equation completely, and then everyone is
I
much
agree.
happier altogether.
I agree. That it's also democratized opportunity. Um, like anybody, if they need to generate extra money
If
and
you,
are of age, meet the qualifications, like they can start driving on the weekends or whatever to start generating some money,
exactly.
and that's what the internet does an amazing job of. Like I just the internet's so new. Like I don't think the world. I'm still wrapping my head around. I'm not saying I'm a, like I know everything
Yeah.
about the internet. I just think that people don't give the internet enough credit for what it's doing, and that is uh, decentralizing stuff. It's the world's central nervous system, and
Yeah.
it's democratizing like everything, like talent, even. Like if you're good, you don't need an
Yeah.
agent, you don't need a manager, you don't need all that jazz to quote unquote make it. The internet will tell you if you're good. All you have to do is show up. And so that's what's really exciting about the internet, cryptocurrency, blockchain especially, is that um,
Yeah.
it's putting a transparent screen like for the world, like it's offering transparency to the world, which makes people a lot more comfortable in their business dealings, and if they order products from a company, they get to see all the certifications and all of that on the blockchain, and so that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
And I think what's exciting is all that money that's being, I guess, tied up in these companies like Uber and Facebook, and all of that money, if you just made the process more efficient, is going to go into every single user's or driver's pocket. So if you take the
Mm-hmm.
margin away from Uber, then all that money is actually just going to go to the drivers, and it's going to become a much more palatable career opportunity for them. I mean, that specific example might go away when automation and self-driving cars come up, but that applies to literally everything. Once the company is removed and the sort of perverse incentives with shareholders, um, then everyone ends up being better off because the community is
Yeah.
responsible for itself. Each person is building their own personal brand instead of relying on the brand of
Right.
the company. So, if I'm an Uber driver, well, not a big deal if I, do a bad ride. Maybe it's bad for me personally, but it can be way more a problem for Uber because internationally or nationally they might get a headline with some really,
Right.
unfortunate title. But by decentralizing it, you're putting a lot more of the responsibility
Oh
back
yeah.
onto the people who are actually responsible. So it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts both ways. They make more money, they have more responsibility. But I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, and as far as the globalization of everything from currencies to business to P2P. I know you've done some work in China, some stuff with supply chain and sourcing, and I think that's really interesting because I think most people in the U.S. have never been to China. I've been most places. I've been to Hong Kong, so I've been close, but I haven't been to China.
I'm
But
glad you know the
what's
difference
been your
between China and
experience
Hong
doing
Kong.
business in
Most people
China?
would think,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's a start.
um, yeah, it really is just a different world out there. I was like, every time I go out there, I come back so fired up because it strips me of like all my excuses, and whenever I'm feeling sorry for myself that I work too hard, like I remember China and how hard
Yeah,
those people work. It is a very hustler type attitude out there on a daily basis. Everyone's just getting after it, working really hard, um, and it's um, it's great if you're sourcing products out there. Obviously, for various reasons, cost of labor, everything's just a little cheaper out there. You can really ball on a budget, they say out there in China. Um,
yeah,
and if you don't speak the language, that's the biggest like struggle that I've had working with China and dealing with factories and sourcing agents, all this, um, is the communication barrier. it's super easy to misconstrue intent. Um, Simply because you don't speak the same language, and so luckily now we have a team out there of people that speak the native language, so we don't have any gray areas trying to do it ourselves. That's the main thing is that's tried and true for any business. When the communication is super thorough, transparent, um, there's very little room for error because you've talked about it.
Yeah.
That's where shit goes south. Is people
Yep.
exactly
Most
people
things really.
communicate. They don't communicate. So yeah, China.
Yeah.
I love it when it comes to making products because we simply get really competitive rates that would cost us an arm and a leg out here in the States or in other countries. But it's not just China, there's other third world countries, India, Pakistan, where uh, you can get, like Vietnam, you can get stuff made
Yep.
rare, really cheap. For me too, like I get judged, you're supporting other people's economies and stuff. But like, if you saw how like, kids in India or Vietnam live, like people would have a lot more empathy towards why like we're supporting them, because they also, you have to understand there's a lot of people from
Oh
all
yeah.
walks of life, and like you're helping out their situation too. It's not just about the US or all that. So that's that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going through Vietnam and Cambodia, and boy, do you thank God for where you were born. When you realize they eat their dogs in the
Mm-hmm.
winter to stay alive. It's crazy. But have you noticed? I guess some manufacturing moving away from China into places like Cambodia and Vietnam now that they're moving more towards a post-industrial society, or do you think really they're still the go-to for manufacturing?
What's interesting about China and the landscape of the sourcing industry is now, because of the internet, it's more, they are actually the Chinese are getting smart, and they're actually now going direct to consumer too. So before,
Yeah, especially Amazon. I know Amazon heavily recruited a lot of Chinese manufacturers to fill up their platform, and that's one of the reasons they have so many problems with counterfeiters.
mhm, yeah.
Sorry,
Oh
but
yeah,
go
so
ahead with.
as I was saying, like I think actually the move when it comes to China is to actually own a factory, to be a factory owner, because that's what I've seen in the industry. A lot of people are starting to do, instead of just like getting their products from a factory. Now they want to own it because now they have a place to directly produce their goods, and if they figure out the internet side of things, they can sell directly to the consumer. Like what's crazy about Alibaba and AliExpress and stuff is like you'll even see
Mhm.
it sometimes where people will run Facebook ads and they're simply just drop shipping a product from China, and somebody will know
Oh yeah.
that, and they will actually comment on that ad. No, don't buy it from these fuckers at $20. You can get it from China for $4, and they'll drop the Alibaba link, or the AliExpress link.
Oh yeah.
Um, so that's what's interesting.
Yeah, I used to do a
Yeah,
ton of drop shipping, and I think they've gotten smart. They're like, why are we letting these people make all the
yeah.
margin on it
So
if we
that's
can
what I
ship
see
internationally
happening. I
too?
see I see Chinese uh, selling directly to consumer.
Well, I think what they really need is someone like you because they just don't know how to market things in the U.S. So they have a terrible time trying to brand uh,
Yeah,
and push sales to U.S. consumers just because they don't really know our culture and our language, and it takes a lot of work to know. First you have to be very proficient in English to know the slang and the culture and what's hot, and so there's a lot of little stuff that comes very intuitively to us, but just the same way we would have no way of
right.
knowing where to start marketing our business
Hmm.
in China. and they probably have a good head start on us doing the same. But there are a lot more people in our market with more experience doing that who have taken
Right.
advantage up to this point. So when you're going, something I've always wondered. I've tried to have a few things manufactured in China. I've never been successful. I know you have to go through and get everything formally designed, prototype. So do you think you typically would come to them with a prototype and then they would make it, or I know you have to have all the specs laid out for their machines, and they've got to do, what does that
Yeah,
process
the
look like?
more clear and precise instructions that you can give to the manufacturers, the better. Um, if you have like a tangible prototype that you can give to them and tell them to replicate it, that's best case scenario, because they have the product in hand. But yeah, I usually my process is sending them out a very detailed list of specs and anything that is important information for them to know on like how to make it, so like how I have envisioned it.
Yeah. So, well, that's I guess that's good to know. So you can kind of come to them with something in hand, because I know prototyping is fairly easy in the U.S. It just can
Hmm.
be very expensive. I think I tried to have I had one idea for a belt that would have a mobile phone charger built into it. So you could have like a little battery pack right on your hip, and you could just put a little USB into your pocket and charge your phone. And I was trying to get that prototyped, and I was looking at $5,000
Wow.
minimum just to get a plastic, not even plastic. It was going to be like a rubber belt made, even with all of the design work done. It was rendered in 3D. The specs were there. I was like, you just had to 3D
Wow.
print the thing, and they're like $5,000. So, so I'm sure going to
Hmm.
China saves you a lot when that's the barrier to entry
Yeah.
here. So that's really interesting. Um, and I know in China they use a different sort of payment mechanism. Do you have any insights as to how crypto might end up being used
The
in
last
China?
time
Have
I
you
checked,
thought
correct
about
me
that
if
at
I'm
all?
mistaken, but I feel like they banned cryptos, didn't they?
Yeah, so I mean they have been pushing back hard against it, but they were also one of the first countries, or at least not the country itself, but the citizenry and the business interests to really embrace things like mining, which is why I'm a little suspect as to the future of where they're going with it. I could see them maybe putting out a state-sponsored currency. I think probably the state just wants the ominous of control. They put out all these pretty creepy like social credit scores, the things like that. The camera systems have gotten really crazy. They can analyze every person's face in the country instantaneously from their camera systems. So I think they are going a little more Big Brother with the way
Hmm.
things are going. So I mean, you might be right. It might be that they just kind of force crypto out of the country more permanently.
The
Um,
so what the
but
interesting thing about China actually is that their payment mechanism right now, like the go to is an app called WeChat, which is already digital
yeah,
currency.
that's what
So
I was
that's what's
thinking. Yeah.
awesome is like for them to integrate cryptocurrencies would be super easy because they've already built the infrastructure for it. Like you don't even need to carry a wallet in China. All you need is your phone. And if you want to pay your taxi driver or your tab at the restaurant, you just scan a QR code and it pays it immediately because the app is linked to your bank account. Um, so
Yeah,
that's
that
actually,
that
and I
seems
think
like
China is like
the
pioneering
future.
that. Like another like this is actually one of Peter Diamandis's 6Ds of exponential organizations is dematerializing. So anytime you can dematerialize something, such as the wallet, you don't need to carry a wallet anymore. That's super crucial. Just how like Apple dematerialized flashlights. You don't need a
Yeah.
flashlight anymore. You have it on your phone. They
Yep.
dematerialized alarm clocks. You don't
Yeah.
need alarm clocks. Your phone has one.
And then
GPSs,
you're
all that.
saving money
Yeah,
at the end of the day. It's one less thing you have
exactly.
to buy that you can, spend on something you want to buy. So it does seem like, the more consolidation that happens as far as, just products in general, the more money people are going to have to spend on things they're
Right.
passionate about. which is something we've
Exactly.
touched upon. So I, I think it's only a matter of time till that shift is going to occur, but people have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a good place to
Okay.
stop. We will always,
Yep.
have you back on going forward. I just wanted to kind of do a little meet and greet. So, we want to casually sort of introduce some of the founders to the audience and hear from you guys. And you guys always have interesting stuff
Yeah.
to say. So it's great to have you on. If there's any links or anything you want to talk about for people to check out more of what you're
Hmm.
doing, feel free to
Okay.
go over that real quick
Yeah,
and
thank
we'll
you
wrap it
guys
up.
so much for making it this far. We're at an hour and 4 minutes. We appreciate your time and attention.
Yeah.
If you would like to check out what I do more, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Childish Pablo. At Childish, FYI, is I'm going to be a child forever. I'm never growing up. That's my mission in life. Um,
Hey,
yeah,
that's the way to do it.
exactly.
Kids are happy. We
So yeah,
forget.
thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find me on Instagram, like I said, at Childish Pablo. And if you have any requests for future podcasts or any topics you would like us to discuss, feel free to tweet us at cryptoeconomy_me. And we will be happy to discuss those topics. That's that for me.
All right. Perfect. You did my job for me. So thanks,
Oh, okay.
guys. Will and I will be hopping on for the QAnon podcast. We've been preparing for this one for a while, so we're going to be going over as much as we possibly can. It'll be a little more informal, but we've done a lot more research, so hopefully it'll be interesting. We'll be going over it, trying to give you our take on it and figure out, what's true, what's not, and if you've just heard the name or you've never heard about it before, it's something interesting to know and interesting to be aware of. So we'll be back with that. And Pablo,
All right. Thank
that's a
you.
wrap. Thanks, man.
Bye bye.